This upcoming weekend, us race fans are going to be treated for an exciting weekend, to say the least. Formula One back in action with the Bahrain Grand Prix and the NASCAR Cup Series heading out to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway for race number 2 out of 3 in the West Coast Swing. And today I am here to give y'all my full predictions for the Bahrain Grand Prix for Formula One and the Pennzoil 400 for the Las Vegas race for the NASCAR Cup Series. And on top of that all, for the NASCAR side of things, I am going to do a Pick 5 contest. And the rules are the same as always. Comment down below your top 5 to be entered. Go 5 for 5, you get an autograph of your choice. And if you go 4 for 5, you get an unsigned hero card. And who knows, you may win a prize. So just comment down below. It won't hurt a thing. And enough said here, on to the intro we go.
Hey, it's Ricky Stenhouse Jr. here at Kroger, and you're watching William Blackwell on YouTube.
Before I give y'all my predictions for the Bahrain Grand Prix and the Pennzoil 400, I am wanting to give y'all my predictions on how the Formula One Constructors title will play out this year. I'm going to start from 1 and go to 10, but here it is. In first place, we have Red Bull. They were quick in testing, and the car looked very reliable, so no issue there at putting them at number 1. But when you look at the number 2 spot, that is where the debate starts. And in my opinion, you got at least 3 teams going for it. And they are Ferrari, Mercedes, and Aston Martin. And at the moment, I feel the most comfortable out of the 3 picking Ferrari, just because of the driver lineup they have and the car consistency and the speed it's got. I believe they're going to be up front in Bahrain, but necessarily they're going to be behind Red Bull, though. But when they go to like a Saudi Arabia, they're going to be quick and they're going to be the ones to beat. So it's just a matter of time for Ferrari with the new team principal, but Ferrari for second place. Third place, though, is going to be Mercedes. I believe Aston Martin is going to be the better team. I am a Mercedes fan, but I'm just wearing a Fernando Alonso hat. I just believe the Mercedes driver lineup is a little bit better, and they're going to be able to grab more points because with Aston Martin and P4, I believe their ceiling's a lot higher, but because they got Lance Stroll as the other driver, Lawrence Stroll, the team owner's son, racing, I believe he's going to hold them back, and Fernando Alonso is going to have to carry the team on his back, which is something a lot of people expected heading into the season, but not many people expected for Aston Martin to be as quick as they were in preseason testing. And who knows, Ted Kravitz said it, that Aston Martin, Fernando Alonso, in the final day of preseason testing was running the same pace as Max Verstappen's Bahrain Grand Prix back in 2022 before he had that mechanical issue. And if that's the case, Fernando Alonso is going to be contending for the podium. But were teams sandbagging? I believe so. But I was really curious to see how things play out with Aston Martin against some teams that were actually sandbagging, because one of the teams I believe that was sandbagging was Alpine. And I got them at 5th. I just don't know about them. They were up and down throughout the week in the 3-day session. So I'm just putting them at 5th. Not a big shocker at all. P6 is going to be Alfa Romeo, and I believe they're going to be a far distance behind Alpine. And not a bad year. Zhou Guanyu was impressive, I guess you can say, in the 3-day testing session, and so was Bottas. But yes, Alfa Romeo P6. P7 is going to be McLaren. Not impressed with their car at all. Oscar Piastri, not impressed so far. And Lando Norris looking like he made a terrible decision to sign back with the team last year. So there you go there. P8 in the Constructors is going to be Haas. I believe they're going to be decent up ahead. Of the 9th place, Williams. I believe Williams is going to take a step forward, but not a big step, but they would not finish dead last, because I believe that will belong to AlphaTauri, just because of the pure question mark surrounding the team. Everybody on that team does not know their future because it is up in the air, because the team has been up for sale recently, and it can easily get bought out to like an Andretti or another team that's looking to go into Formula One. And a lot of them drivers and mechanics and people working in the factory are curious and anxious to know what their job security is looking like, because it's not looking good at the moment. They're wanting it to look long term here, and I believe that's going to result in a bad year for AlphaTauri. But there's the top 10 in the constructors. Now on to the predictions for the Bahrain Grand Prix. We go. Let's assume for the Bahrain Grand Prix that Mercedes were sandbagging, because I believe they were not showing their full potential, and neither was Ferrari in my opinion. But I believe both teams are still going to be behind Red Bull, because Red Bull was just so darn quick and their car was reliable. And saying that, I believe Max Verstappen will win the Bahrain Grand Prix for the 2023 Formula One season opener. And does the curse continue? And what I mean by that is the driver that went on to win the first Grand Prix of the year failed to win the Drivers' World Championship. Last year, Charles Leclerc in Bahrain, Lewis Hamilton in 2021. You can put a little asterisk beside that because of Abu Dhabi. We all know what went on there. He got manipulated and Verstappen won the world title. And in 2020, Valtteri Bottas in Austria. That was the big comeback over the big break a lot of people are looking forward to. And it kind of put a little dent into Lewis Hamilton, because it looked like Bottas was getting ready to charge for a world championship that year, but he did not go on to win it. And in 2019, Bottas winning Australia. But the point is, though, does the curse continue? I don't know. Verstappen's too darn quick, and so is Red Bull. We'll see how things play out. Second place, though, is going to be Charles Leclerc. I believe he's going to have a little bit better of a weekend than Sergio Perez will, but I believe second place is reasonable. And in third place, rounding out the podium, it is going to be Sergio Perez. I believe he felt the heat last season, and he performed very well. Came home third in the driver standings. Could have easily came home in second for a little bit of help by his cocky teammate, Max Verstappen. But there you go. He's going to have a good year this year. I believe he will win many Grand Prix like he did a year ago, but instead at least 3. All right, coming home in P4 is going to be Carlos Sainz. I believe he's going to have a little uptake of an year. Last year had a slow start, a lot of DNFs. This year he's not going to have that, because if he does, he can easily be out of a ride, because of Fred Vasseur, it is quick, very quick to move on from a driver once they're struggling. Just ask Antonio Giovinazzi, because he was struggling and there was many drivers in the market, and he went after them and dumped Giovinazzi. And I believe it can very well happen, especially if Zhou Guanyu or maybe Valtteri Bottas this year just impresses people and puts up lots of points on the board. Because remember, Alfa Romeo, they're having a change this year. They're going to be back to Sauber till 2026. And a lot of things are going to change around that team. New management coming in for Audi, and Ferrari's going to want to get all their personnel from that team back in the light red, because dark red is Alfa Romeo. You get the point, though. They're going to want to get all their personal belongings back, and in result of that, they may take one of their drivers if, let's say, Carlos Sainz struggles, or if they lose Charles Leclerc to another team, because that's a very big possibility. But the top 4, I believe, for the first couple of weeks in the season is going to be that top 4, both Red Bull and both Ferrari drivers, unless something happens at the start, which is always a possibility, but time will tell. But coming home in 5th place, though, you got a couple of drivers up for grabs, in my opinion. I look at Lewis Hamilton. That's who I got. George Russell, Zhou Guanyu, Valtteri Bottas, Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, and obviously Fernando Alonso. And maybe Felipe Drugovich if he drives in the Bahrain Grand Prix in replace of Lance Stroll. But there you go. There's my top 5. Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez, Sainz, and Hamilton. And Alonso is my dark horse. And one last thing, because it kind of went out a little bad, but Lance Stroll had a wrist injury. Bad news. But in order to be good and have a chance in the sport, you got to be cocky, and you got to take advantage of that situation. It's a bad situation, but I believe Felipe Drugovich, he's going to do good in this car, and he's going to turn some heads, and I believe it's going to put Lance Stroll on a much hotter seat, because if he goes out there and performs really well and Stroll comes back and sucks, Lawrence may come back into the picture and say, hey, we're getting these type of results with Fernando and Felipe, but you're coming in here and getting so-and-so. We're going to have to make a change here if we don't do no better. And I believe that talk is going to happen at some point this year. And I am sure Lawrence is already kind of expecting it to happen at some point in time once they sign Fernando Alonso, because Alonso is in his prime for how crazy it sounds at the moment. But enough said here. On to Vegas we go. Winning this Sunday's NASCAR Cup Series race out at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, it is going to be the hometown driver of Kyle Rowdy Busch. Kyle Busch is coming off a big-time win at the Auto Club Speedway in its final race of the 2-mile history, as they're going to be shutting the track down for at least a year or maybe two as they change it into a half-mile short track. And it was a very big win for him, as it was his first win of his new team, Richard Childress Racing. And I believe, as Clint Boyer said in the broadcast, the whole field is worried because Kyle Busch has got all the momentum in the world, and it is going to be very, very hard to stop him. And I believe he's going to go to Vegas, lead a lot of laps, win a stage, and he's going to go on to win a race, and it's going to be his second win of the year. After this, they go to Phoenix. Not a great track for Kyle Busch. Then you go to Atlanta, Coda. You got some good tracks coming up for Kyle Busch besides Phoenix, and you do not want to hit this. You don't want this man to heat up right now. Is all I'm trying to say, and I believe he's going to. And I don't have Austin Dillon in my top 5, nor is my dark horse, but I do want to give him a shout out. Ever since Kyle Busch came to Richard Childress Racing, Austin Dillon has been somehow more competitive. I guess he's being pushed and he's getting more advice than he would have from like a Tyler Reddick or Daniel Hemrick, I remember, in the 8 car. But look at him in the Clash. Top 3, Daytona 500. Had a chance to win the race before he got wrecked out. Both him and his teammate had a chance. And he was very good in Auto Club, a top 10. Very impressed so far by the young driver from Carolina and Austin Dillon. All right, the second place, though, is going to be Ryan Blaney. He struggled in Auto Club, but early on had some speed. So they're heading to a track Penske's been good at. Second place seems pretty reasonable. Third place is going to be Joey Logano. Las Vegas is a track Logano has succeeded in the past, and I believe he's going to do good. P3. P4 is going to be Chase Elliott. Not much to say here. Was good in Auto Club, flew under the radar, but this time around he's going to be up there for most of the day. Not coming from the back. But rounding out my top 5 is going to be the 5 car of Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson, I am sure when I'm saying this, like I'm positive, he does not want this race to end out the way it did for him last fall, where him and Wallace tangled up. He got wrecked. Him and Wallace got into an altercation on the front stretch, and everybody saw it. Not a good look for the sport, but Kyle Larson does not want things to play out that way again, and this time around it's going to be a little cleaner. P5. And my dark horse is going to be Noah Gragson. Not a big shocker. He was good in Auto Club, great in Daytona, good in the Clash. Pretty solid pick here. And there you go. Kyle Busch wins. Blaney second, Logano third, fourth Chase Elliott. Fifth is going to be Kyle Larson, and my dark horse will be Noah Gragson. But everybody, though, remember to please like and subscribe and comment down below your top 5 to be entered in this Sunday's Pick 5 contest. And also go check out Winning Bets and Righteous Redneck. Righteous Redneck has run his channel for a while doing a Pick 5 contest, and he's been a big supporter of my channel. So he's getting close to 1 million viewers on YouTube. So if you don't mind, please go over to his channel, because it is going to be very cool to see his channel hit 1 million views, because I know it's going to happen this year at some point in time. But also, just go check him out, please. The link is in the description. But please like and subscribe.